Okay, it is 11 p.m. Pacific time on Sunday, April 6th, and I finally am getting around to talking about the town hall that I went to with my Congresswoman Maxine Dexter and my state rep Tweet Tran. By the way, if you hear a bunch of background noise in this video, it's because even though it's 11 p.m. at night, my son is doing a round of D&D with his friends. His basement bedroom is right below mine. And I think he's playing a bard because he keeps singing a lot loudly. But we're going to roll with it. So I want to tell you about the town hall today. It was at Park Rose Middle School, which is right in my neighborhood, so I got to walk there. I really appreciate how both of my senators and my congresswoman are really committed to town halls and connecting with their constituents. Maxine loves to say that we live in a representative democracy. She represents us, so she needs to know what our will is, what our opinion is, what things we care about. She can't do that if she isn't willing to come and meet with us. I also want to say I love my state rep, Tweet Tran. I think she's wonderful. And I'm not just biased because she's from Park Rose. Like, she does so much for this community. She also has regular meetings with her constituents. They're hosted on Friday evenings. There's usually pizza. I've been to a bunch of them, and I need to start going again. I'm just trying to find the time, y'all. But our local and state politics are even more important to stay plugged into right now. There was a short introduction by both Tweet and Maxine, and then we got straight into the questions. The way that town halls work in Oregon is that if you have a question, you get a ticket, and then they just pull numbers and they get through as many as they can get through. In her introduction, Maxine said we all need community where we can thrive and not just survive. She said everyone deserves a healthy life in a healthy, resilient community on a healthy planet. One of the things I really like about Maxine is her commitment to the environment and fighting climate change. She always keeps that at the forefront of her messaging, and I appreciate that very much. The first question was from a student. I really appreciated Michael, the superintendent, leaving certain question slots just for students. A 16-year-old from Grant High School got up and said that she didn't really have a question. It was more of a proposal. She wanted to see the messaging from the Democrats not just be stop this or this is bad and just all the negative, but she really wanted more positive messaging, more effective communication of what the Democrats want to do for Americans. How can they benefit Americans? How can they help improve our quality of life? And she suggested a more positive communication mode, she and her dad, of having fireside chats with the American people once a week. Her recommendation, her dad's recommendation, was that those be held by President Obama because they said he has such a high approval rating even now. She said she's terrified of a billionaire tearing apart our country, but she also said people don't really respect Democrats, and so having something like a fireside chat every week would be a platform where Dems could communicate their vision for America and instill hope and, bring people to the party. I thought that was a really interesting solution-minded contribution to the conversation. Speaking of solution-minded, the second question was, Republicans have a strategy they've been building for decades. Where is the Democratic strategy? What is the plan from leadership? Do we have a Project 2029? Somebody asked this way back in January at a town hall with Jeff Merkley, one of my senators. And he said they want to have a Project 2029, to which everybody was like, it will be too late by then. We can't wait that long. And Maxine said the same thing. We can't wait till 2029, that she and other Democrats are working on a Project 2027. She said, I want us to be ready to lead. Rather than winning in the 2026 midterms, which she feels confident they will do, and then trying to figure out what are we going to do now that we have the power and the authority again, now that we have the gavels back. She said, we need to be ready to lead. We need to have, things waiting in the wings that we're going to roll out on day one. To which I was like, finally, that is such a great way of describing Democrats. They never have anything waiting in the wings. They never have a project they're ready to roll out. It's always lots of fumbling, even when they're in power. And she seemed really opposed to being disorganized like that and was like, we need to have an agenda. It needs to be comprehensive and we need to be ready to go with it. She didn't talk about how Democrats are going to reclaim the House and the Senate in the midterms. And honestly, as a town hall, she's not really supposed to do that because it's supposed to be nonpartisan. She's not supposed to be talking about campaigning. Someone said federal employees cannot sell their products back to the government while they work for them, but Elon Musk is somehow allowed to have government contracts where he's selling Teslas and satellites to the U.S. government while working for the U.S. government. She said, can Congress dissolve any of these contracts? Like, what can Congress do about this? And Maxine responded, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a whole lot of corruption going on in Washington right now. She's on the Natural Resources, I think it's a subcommittee, and she said that they are talking about space mining. They're cutting Medicaid and they're cutting food stamps. They are pillaging Social Security, but they're talking about space mining. She said the only reason that is even up for conversation at all is because SpaceX will be the contractor that will be sending the equipment to whatever outer space locations they are going to be using to mine for who knows what. She said SpaceX already has $860 billion of government money. Government money means our tax money in contracts. And now they want more, right? Like, this is blatant corruption. It's how do we manufacture some scenarios so we can give SpaceX and Elon Musk a contract and more taxpayer money. She said corruption is the point. They're trying to privatize everything to build a system that billionaires will use to put money in their pocket and take away your services. She then went on to say something that she had said to me yesterday at the protest. I don't know if she knows who I am. I say that like I think I'm somebody. I'm not somebody, but she had said this to me yesterday and I was really encouraged by it. And then so I was really glad to hear her repeat it again. I think it's something that Cory Booker said, the power of the people is greater than the people in power. She said, this is a moment in time where we will be judged forever by history. And I completely agree. Should I ever be blessed with grandchildren, I want to be able to look them in the eye and tell them I was on the right side of history. The next question was about the lack of checks and balances, how our government has been eroded by corporations. We have allowed Elon Musk to buy an election, download all our data, and take our money. She asked if Democrats have reflected on their own complicity when it comes to allowing corporations to run everything, to buy political power and influence, and erode our checks and balances. Maxine said, we have a representative government, and that means she needs to reflect what we want. She believes that corporations do not have First Amendment rights, no matter what the court says. She mentioned Citizens United and how we have the ability to have campaign finance reform and to restore a government that is representative of the constituents, not of corporations. But she said so much trust has been eroded and lost when it comes to Democrats in Congress and the Democratic Party in general. And she said she needs to hear from constituents. It's so important that people call and email her. She needs those data points so that she can represent the district adequately. And I actually want to bring up something here that I said to somebody after the meeting was over, which is that I have been to every single town hall, either phone town hall or in person, that Maxine has had since the beginning of 2025. And I have noticed that she has gotten more assertive, more confident, more outspoken, more tenacious. At every single one, you can just watch the evolution of her as she is taking feedback from constituents who are saying, do more, be more courageous, be more brave. We need you to be more vocal. We need you to do bigger things. We need you to take a stronger stand. And I've watched her listen to that feedback and get more and more and more bold, more and more outspoken. And I'm so grateful that she is listening to her constituents. I am so grateful that she is willing to act. I'm going to tear up a little bit here. I'm so grateful to have somebody representing our district, representing Oregon, my corner of Oregon, who is willing to actually represent the people. She wants the feedback so that she can be directed in how to act, right? She wants to know that she is working on behalf of us. And she has said over and over again, she is willing to do the job. We just need to tell her what it is that we want. So we've got to keep giving her that feedback. I mean, that's why I call or I email her every single day. There was then a question about military aid that the U.S. gives overseas for Maxine's campaign for Congress. And honestly, I think I'm going to cover that in a separate video because I think I owe Maxine an apology based on what she said in response to that question. So you can find that. I think I'll post it on my backup because my main TikTok account gets angry if I post too many long videos. And I want to give that question and my response and Maxine's response the due attention that it really deserves. Rep. Tran stood up and talked about how important it is that we look out for our neighbors, especially protecting them from ICE. There was a question about the attack on education, and Maxine said attacking education is an authoritarian playbook move, right? NIH grants are being held hostage to force universities to abandon their First Amendment protections for their students. That is absolutely what is happening. Columbia. She said Trump has fired almost everybody who administers Pell Grants and Perkins loans, and we need public pressure on the cuts that he's making. She said the Department of Education cannot be dismantled by executive order because the department was created by Congress. It can only be shut down by Congress. She also talked about how $500 million worth of Oregon Food Bank funding from the federal government is now threatened. SNAP benefits are threatened. She's really concerned about kids in our community going hungry. I am too. That's a primary concern of mine. She said we have to commit to caring for our kids and feeding them because the government won't right now. She said we must stay loud and we must remember that we are resilient. She said it's going to be a rough road. These are dark times. There's no denying that. And we have to look out for each other. So that's how that went. It's late. I'm going to go to bed. Good night, y'all.